Hello and welcome to Talk Truth. My name is Corey Huntsberger. I've got my father, Alan Huntsberger, in the studio, and we're going to start off with our free booklet. You know, it's called The Living Stone, A Journey of Transformation. If you don't have it yet, what are you doing? It's absolutely free. We send it to you in the mail, and this is going to help strengthen your relationship with Christ. Our relationship with Christ needs to be strengthened because we are going through turbulent waters. You can get it for free by calling our toll-free number, 1-800-915-0056 in Canada. If you're in the U.S., you can get it by calling 1-800-445-3450 in the U.S. Dad, why is this book important? Why do people have to get it?
Well, because, you know, you're not going to get into the kingdom of heaven and still live in sin, number one.
You're not going to get through with what's going on in the world without it either.
No. And I mean, you got to have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, which means what? It means that my sheep, Jesus says in John 10, hear my voice. They recognize my voice, and I call them by name. In other words, you have a time with the Lord on a daily basis, and he talks with you and you talk with him. You have a conversation with God. Now, a lot of people don't understand this because it's not taught. They just say, pray this prayer, go get baptized, attend church on a Sunday. And it's like, really? Jesus says in Matthew 7, many will say to me on that day, did we not prophesy in your name, drive out demons in your name, do many miracles in your name? And then he's going to say, I never knew you. I don't ever want you to watch this program and hear, I never knew you from the Lord. I want you to hear, well done, thou good and faithful servant, because you had a personal, active, live, vital relationship with Jesus Christ, period.
Pastor Alan bringing the fire. Okay, I didn't think you were going to go there. I mean, that's a good one. I was just going to say, if you want freedom and you want truth, God is freedom and truth. Anyway, but that was good too, Dad, what you said. I mean, it was true as well. I mean, absolutely. Someone who's fighting for truth, someone who's fighting for freedom in this country is this gentleman right here, Mr. Grant Abraham. He's with the United Party of Canada. Grant, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Doing very well in the middle of this federal election and changing hearts and minds across the country. So exciting times.
Well, you represent Didsbury, Ponoka. Didsbury is my hometown. It's also the place where Corey was born as well. So it's very near and dear to our hearts. And we wish we could be up there in Ponoka and Didsbury helping you.
I still have the onesie that says I was born in Didsbury. I still got the onesie.
Wow. Well, you guys better be getting back up here to vote. I can tell you that now that I know that.
Well, Grant, we know you're you have lots of opinions of what's going on. I'm going to let you run, man, where you want to go on this conversation, because you're the one that's out there knocking on doors. You're the one that's looking at people face to face, having the conversations. What's the temperature out there? What are you finding? What are people saying?
Well, you know what? There's changes going on in Canada. There's changes going on in Alberta. And you guys have had a few conversations with me now. And one of the things that I've been talking about is this reality that we have in Canada right now, where what the Liberal Party is doing by commission in terms of post-nationalism and foreign interference, and COVID has provided us with an opportunity for a reset. The Conservative Party of Canada is allowing to happen by omission. And people are waking up to this reality in the country. And I think the recent things that we've seen now with President Trump's tariffs and him asking, and let's remember, he is asking us to clean up fentanyl and human trafficking and fix the fence of our border. He's saying to us, we're a bad neighbor. We have a messy backyard and a broken fence. And Canada's responding with economic tariffs to something we should be fixing because we have the right value discussions in the country. And we don't want to see kids trafficked. We don't want industrial scale, drug production and money laundering flowing out of Vancouver and Toronto. So a lot of people are starting to see the inconsistency of both the Liberal Party's retaliatory tariffs and also the federal Conservative Party's retaliatory tariffs. Because why would conservative leadership not engage those issues and fix them because of the right thing to do? Because we conserve the right thing to do. And so this is where I kind of talk about conservatism and say the Conservative Party is really conservative in name only. And we can talk about things like Bill C4, and that's criminalizing parents for stopping their kids going trans. That, yes, that's every parent or grandparent in Canada that gets in the way of their child trying to transition and remove their genitalia. The Conservative Party has passed Bill C4, brought the motion to the floor, unanimous consent motion, December 1st, 2021. Check it out. They put that in place so that the people that value the integration and connection between a parent and a child is going to prison if they get on the wrong side of this, gender transitioning. And so people are waking up to the fact that the MPs that they've elected across the country actually made those decisions and are criminalizing them for stopping their kids. I stopped my kids burning their hands. I stopped them playing with guns. I stopped them with stopped them driving before they're 16, but we're going to let them take those decisions, and the government's going to stop them with the removal of their, genitalia or breasts. So people are starting to see these value deficits in terms of the conservative kind of family, if you will, in Canada, particularly in Western Canada with the root systems of reform. And, Poilievre now standing up and say, we're going to continue with these retaliatory tariffs, and we're going to continue with equalization payments, is kind of going down like a poo sandwich in Alberta, because everybody's fed up with central Canadian control and us paying for it. We're pushing $1 trillion from Alberta to central Canada since 1960, and people are just hitting their fuse lines. And so President Trump really kicked off an amazing discussion in Western Canada by saying you'll be the 51st state. And a lot of people think, oh, he's just being imperialistic or whatever. I don't think he's being imperialistic at all. He's saying, fix your backyard. You've got a mess. And the bottom line is, we, the Americans, are not going to allow Canada to become a post-nation state or controlled by globalists or run by the UN, where they allow the Chinese or any other foreign government to have access to resources and be 5 minutes away from the 49th parallel. He's saying you will be American before that's allowed to happen. And what we need to do is recognize that Canada is coming to binary choices. The Conservative Party is not talking anything about this. They are trying to make Trump the enemy, and Trump is simply being American first and saying, we're going to take care of our backyards. We like you guys as neighbors. We're related to half of you at least, but you need to fix your stuff, right? And I think that this message is picking up momentum because some of the dots aren't connecting. And so what do I say? What am I saying in Canada right now? I'm saying, well, you know what? We need to doge Canada. We need to return to God, keep our land glorious and free. We need to unleash our energy resources, drill, baby, drill. We need to do that, all of those things. But we also need to realize that we're in the middle of a geopolitical discussion now with Canada. We're not just in a political conversation. And the game has really upped now because we're dealing with the US. We're dealing with a separatist reality in Western Canada that is not just saber rattling like Quebec does. Quebec's really good at talking about separatism because the West pays for their reality to stay. Let's be honest.
Right.
This has been the way it's been in this country, and Western Canada is not going to be a colony of a colony anymore. And now that we're talking about constitutional stuff and colonial stuff, the reality for Canada, and this is where I talk about Alberta sovereignty first, and I'm a big advocate for this because I see Alberta as a beachhead for all Canadian freedom. And why I say that is because there was a piece of legislation in our history that no one really knew about, and it certainly wasn't brought to Canadians' attention when we were talking about the Constitution in 1981. Not that I was talking about constitutions in 1981, but that legislation basically says that the British Crown was severing its sovereign control, the monarchy, over Canada, and passing that kind of sacred concept of sovereignty, not to the federal government of Canada, not to Ontario and Quebec, but to the Canadian people first. And that sovereignty was to be stewarded in provincial legislatures. And when you really look at what Canada wants, they don't want to be Americans, and they don't want to live under tyranny, and they don't want to be Chinese, and they don't want to be a post-nation state controlled by the UN because that offends our culture, values, and traditions. What I'm talking about is creating another bus stop in these terrible two choices between post-nationalism and being Americans. No disrespect to all the American viewers. We love you, but we like being Canadian. And so I'm creating another place to say we need to create a beachhead in Canada for sovereignty. And as Alberta exercises and appropriates that sovereignty that was given to us, I think the rest of Canada is going to join. And if you know what, I believe righteousness exalts a nation. You start putting the right values in place, you start letting the economics flow, you start doing the right things because they're the right things to do. Money follows values. And the rest of Canada will be looking over the fence because our grass will be really, really green, but they're going to be joining on the basis of the values that we're putting in place in the West.
You know, my
That's how I see it.
my great great grandfather was a homesteader way back in the beginning of the province, and they got to pick up the land that they wanted to homestead, and then they, you know, started building fences and building houses and barns, and away you go. Start tilling the ground and everything else. And one of the things they did was they gave up their mineral rights, and the reason why they gave them to the government for the mineral rights was so that all Albertans could benefit. Not all Canadians, all Albertans would benefit. You know, and I think how this equalization scenario got into a thing that we send all our money to other provinces. And when you look at some of the statistics about the pension plan, for example, and Alberta pays the most in the Canada pension plan of any province, it's humongous. So I think that hopefully you said there's momentum. I hope you're right, because I still see people, you know, they think the number one problem with Canada is Trump. It's not Trump. It's the Liberal government. It's the NDP. It's
the globalists.
Socialism. It's globalists. I mean, come on, let's wake up and start to realize that we, whether it's Alberta or Saskatchewan or BC or whatever, we the people got to get this country back unto God. It was the dominion of Canada from sea to sea. For Pete's sake.
Right.
Let's get going and let's get better focused. And I don't know what's going to happen, Grant. I pray for you and others that you know, at least are smelling the roses.
I'll tell you what, that's what we're doing, and I'm picking these fights. I'm encouraged. The party's really only been an official party for about 13, 14 months. And we're going to be running 18 candidates across the country on exactly what I've been saying to you gentlemen here this morning. And the thing that blows me away is that rural Ontario is getting this better and faster than Alberta. Alberta is still hung up on the federal Conservative Party, even though Poilievre is saying, yeah, we're going to unleash our energy, but he won't ever step back from the Paris Climate Accord. And when you actually put that to Albertans and they think about it, they're like, you're right. They don't like the fact that there's a double talk. And this is the double talking that's going on right across the policy framework. We're talking about the symptoms, never the roots. That's why we talk about anti-Semitism in this country, and we never engage a conversation about what militant Islam is doing. There are a lot of these kinds of issues where we just placate sound bites, but we don't actually get to the root discussions in the country. And so I'm actually bringing these conversations, and I'm pushing this agenda because we are to have sovereignty as a Canadian people. We need to move from being a country to a nation, and this is our destiny as a people. And so this is the discussion. I don't know, maybe you're right. I don't want to speak any death over what we're doing because I'm seeing a momentum building. And I'm actually saying to the people in Ponoka-Didsbury, that's actually what the riding is called. It's a new riding that's been restructured for this election. I'm saying you guys are the anchor point for Canada. You are the Helm's Deep, because the people in this riding have the tenacity, they have the faith, they have the alignment in terms of what Canada is supposed to be, and they will become the anchor point for this conversation in the country. There's another 5 MP candidates that are running across Alberta. There's one in BC and Chilliwack. There's one in Manitoba, and there's 10 in Ontario. So this conversation is happening across the country.
You know, we had a conversation, Leighton Gray. Interesting. I asked him, is it because, you know, we don't have a leader, like an actual leader, like a Donald Trump kind of a leader, you know, that has a new vision, new plan, all this kind of stuff? Because you said it, you know, people just now are just defaulting to voting conservative because that's just the default. He said, but really what they don't know is they've never really seen what it looks like. I think the rest of the country, all of Canada, needs to encourage Alberta to do this, to step out in faith and do something new and fresh so that we can model what it could look like to shake off what we've been so used to. You know what I mean? To envision something new. I think if any province can do it, one of the main provinces is Alberta, because we are rich in our resources and stuff. We do have the resources to provide for ourselves, to be on our own, to do our own thing. I think if we could use Alberta as a model, as an example, the rest of the country encourage Alberta to do it and try and build our own separate thing with including, you know, everybody else, but just do it. Give us some time. You know what I mean? Encourage Alberta to go for it, so that then Canadians can see, you know what, this can work. We can go into a different direction than we've ever gone before. And we know what it looks like now because Alberta modeled it. Does that make sense to you, Grant?
That's exactly what I'm saying. That is exactly what I'm saying. And I'm basically saying we need to take this position. We can take this position as strongly from a federal platform as we can from a provincial platform, because Alberta's the beachhead. It's not about Alberta becoming an isolated state.
Right.
It's about being the liberation point for all Canadians, because what's happening is there's a shadow of tyranny coming across this country, and we're actually in a war. This is a war for the soul of this nation. And any metaphors you want to use to talk about it, good and evil, light and darkness, we're talking about essentially Marxism dressed up as post-national totalitarianism. And that is why people are asking across the country, where has my country gone? I don't know, not making sense anymore. The inclusiveness doesn't mean we're inclusive. It means we're polarized. And this is the distortion of the word game reality. And we're dealing with real value issues, because there are policies being advanced that are seeing our children sexualized and pedophilia normalized. And we have these paradoxes, even from the people that we think they're going to save us. Like, ask yourself that question. You know, the Paris Climate Accord is a UN agenda-driven climate theory. And on one hand, the conservatives are telling us they're going to release our energy. On the other hand, they won't revoke their connection to the Paris Climate Accord. So, you know, a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. And that's what the majority of Western Canadians are looking at as their solution. And the more conversations that I have with people, the more that I'm actually creating enough discomfort for them to actually rethink and see that, you know, and this is what I say right across this country: but for God, this country's lost.
Yes.
But
Absolutely.
for God, this country is lost. And, you know, I said, God keep our land glorious and free. And I say to Canadians at all time, we've unplugged our value system from the supremacy of God and the rule of law. And I'll say to Canadians right across the country, when we talk about that constitutional term, the supremacy of God, we're talking about the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And the best thing about that God is that he gives us the absolute right not to choose him. And that's the framework for our freedom in this nation. And the question that I ask for anybody that gets cheeky with that in a meeting is, are we closer? Do we have more freedom now that we're further away from an understanding of the supremacy of God? Or do we have less freedom? And if you go back 20 years and you ask the same question, are we more free then when we were closer to that value conversation with the supremacy of God and the rule of law, or less free? We're way more free. So this isn't about some kind of Christianization of Canada. It's about recognizing the culture, values, and traditions that actually are the bedrock stabilizing framework for who we are as a people and what we are as a nation. And we need to have these conversations again, because when you plug in that value framework back into what our DNA is, you then establish the ability to say no to stuff. Because right now we're saying yes to everything, and that's why the country's fragmenting. And make no mistake, these geopolitical realities are coming at us. And whether Canadians believe it or not, the Americans believe there's Chinese troops in our nation. Stephen Harper passed the Foreign Interference Protection Act. It allowed Chinese soldiers and security to come into this country to protect in foreign investment. And that has been the bridgeway in. And whether you believe it or not, or your viewers believe it or not, I'm telling you, the Americans believe that that's the case, and they are not going to allow their golden age to be destabilized because we can't clean up our backyard. And so that's the geopolitics. We have 40 million people with one of the cleanest, wealthiest land masses in the world. There's all kinds of motivation for this country to be appropriated by someone else. And so the best conservative thinking in the last 80 years has led us to this mess. Yeah. And unless we start having the real conversations about what's actually going on and realizing that we're either going to be under tyranny or we're going to be under an American flag. And if there's a confrontation with those geopolitical forces and it goes kinetic, it's happening in Canada. It's not happening in the US. So I'm fighting hard to allow people to see that there's another bus stop between these two choices, and it's actually a free nation in the way that it's designed to be. And I'm actually talking about shredding and peeling off this deep state globalized agenda that is appropriating the free people of Canada. That's that serious.
I just think it needs to be modeled. And you don't want to, I encourage then Quebec, separate, model something for us, because it's like asking a blind person and describing the mountains, Lake Louise. I mean, what's a mountain? They can't do it. They can't visualize it because they've been blind their entire lives. And so until something is open so that they could see a model of what it looks like, of what this freedom and this working between other provinces would look like, and other, international trade and all this kind of stuff, Canadians will never get it. So I don't blame them because they've never seen it. You know what I mean? So you're trying to explain something to them that they've never seen. I encourage everybody in Canada to encourage the provinces that are willing to do it, that want to step out on their own, give them, back them up, because I think Canada needs to try something different that we've never seen before. It can be done. And I think I agree with you. As long as God's in the center of it, and I'm not talking about religion, I'm talking about the supremacy of God, I know it's going to be successful.
One of the things that is amazing to me, and I think it's something that we need to understand, and that is, God is there all the time. And one of the things about climate change that you're going to find out, DOE's in the United States is going to show what climate change is really all about. That report is about ready to come out, and it's basically a filtrating of money, and it has nothing to do with climate change. It's a scam of theftery among the citizenship of the countries.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a Trojan horse for the cycling of money away from the Canadian people. And that's what's going on. And we need to be taking care of our people, our families, our elderly, our veterans. And we're doing a bad job of that right now. Regardless of what the sound bites are that are out there, we've never had 10 cities in our nation. You've got the conservatives saying, oh, isn't it great? We're going to spend all this money and, invest in 50,000 rehabilitations for people that are dependent on fentanyl. That's great. We need to care for those people. But what about dealing with organized crime that's actually behind the scenes running these systems in the country? And right now we have a tariff system that is being applied to our nation. It's actually making the businesses and the people of the country poorer, because we'd rather have a tariff war than actually say, what is behind fentanyl and human trafficking is organized crime, right? We're not talking about 10 kilos of fentanyl being snuck across the Manitoba border at night. We're talking about industrial scale production with money laundering through Canadian banks. I mean, the evidence is very clear. Toronto Dominion just had a $4 billion fine in the US for money laundering. The dots connect. That's the fine. And no one's talking about what the purpose of that money laundering was for. Canadians need to understand this. That's why President Trump's saying what he's saying. And why wouldn't we, as conservative-minded people that care about people and we have the values that would want to see our country cleaned up, why wouldn't we say, hey, what's behind human trafficking and fentanyl production is organized crime? Why don't we call the organized crime the cartels? Why don't we define the cartels as terrorist organizations and actually give the enforcement officers enough authority to actually unravel this infrastructure? But instead, what we're doing is we're allowing a tariff war to be created, and let's make President Trump the enemy because we won't clean up our crappy backyard.
Well, Grant,
Right?
agreed. Grant, we're out of time. Really appreciate having you on the show. And 10 seconds, what are you going to be doing from now until election?
We are a ground game here in Ponoka-Disbury. We're working on supporting the other ridings in Alberta, but we're door knocking. I'm speaking every night. I'm doing podcasts across the country. It's go, go, go. And I'm seeing hearts and minds change because people are fed up. And, we've had a long time since Reform formed into the Conservative Party, and everybody is waking up that social conservative value framework basically has been ignored, and that people are seeing that they have Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah.
And they get a kiss and a cuddle before the election, and then the things that are really important that make our families strong and our communities strong are being ignored.
All right. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here. We'll have you back.
And you guys too. Thank you.
All right. It's good to have Grant on. Interesting stuff.
Yes, and if there's any other party leaders from different parties that want to come on our show, just give us a call, and we'll facilitate as many as we can before the election.
Or email us on air at talktruth.ca. Yeah, that would be awesome. We got to have the conversation, Dad.
Yeah.
Got to have the conversation. It's going to be an interesting time, but you know what? God is in control, 100%.
Amen.
You want to support our mission, keep truth broadcast across our country? We are viewer supported. We need your help. You can go to talktruth.com, click on donate. There's a bunch of different ways you can give digitally. If you'd like to do it through the mail and pay by a check, you can. You can make it payable to Heritage Christian Ministries Association and send it to 246 Stewart Green, Southwest, Suite 3260, Calgary, Alberta, T3H3C8. And you can always call our toll-free line, 1-800-915-0056 in Canada for prayer, or you can give that way as well. All right, Dad, we're out of time. We'll see you guys later.
Love you.